Draco Malfoy, and the year when everyone suddenly paid attention to him. But Draco will hear about this. Chapter 11. The thing about destinies. So, Draco said when he had led Harry away from the Great Hall for some privacy, I need a favor from you. Anything, Harry replied without a second thought, making Draco smile, despite the seriousness of the situation, at the pure trust Harry displayed towards him. I need the Marauder's map, Draco told him, meeting Harry's eyes and watching the confusion at the unexpected turn their conversation was taking. I need to keep an eye on that. What's he doing? Harry asked, immediately alert. I'm not sure, Draco admitted, but I had a talk with Blaise Zabini yesterday, and he thinks he might be working for the Dark Lord. Crap, Harry hissed, stopping in his tracks. Yes, Draco grimaced, coming to the wall next to him. He wants me to talk to him, help him see reason, offer him a helping hand in the act of changing sides, so to say. What? Harry called, making Draco hush it frantically. He checked, but they were still alone in the corridor. A couple of portraits were eyeing them curiously, though, so Draco grabbed Harry's hand and started walking again. Zabini's got this idea in his head, Draco explained under his breath, that I'm some kind of figurehead for a Slytherin and Purple Revolution. I change signs and I can inspire others to do it, apparently. But this is not what we're talking about, Harry protested, his face red. Draco could tell that actual fury was building under the receding shock. Not who spent the last 6 years making your life a living hell, who landed you in hospital wing countless times. Don't you think he's a special case, Draco? I've also known Theodore not since we were little, Harry, Draco reminded him gently. We didn't always used to be enemies. Oh, and you think he's suddenly going to remember that when you try to tell him to turn his back on his parents and sell their side out? Harry hissed. That's exactly the kind of thing he always insulted you for. Yes, but that's before he saw how bad it would be to work for the Dark Lord, Draco pointed out. He might think differently now. Harry cursed under his breath, but apparently he had no ready answer. This is a horrible idea, he groaned. It's dangerous. I'm aware of that, Draco sighed. I promise I'll be careful. But Harry, I can take care of myself and you know it. My grades in DA are as good as yours. And while I might not have your instincts, I have more natural self-preservation. I'm first going to try to hang around him a little anyway, figure out what he's up to, and watch out for the right moments to approach him. Can't you just use the gentleman's theonomy and be done with it? Harry asked moodily. Then we could go to Dumbledore with what you found and... Okay, Harry, even assuming he was not proficient in occlumency, which I doubt seeing that he frequents with the Dark Lord, he would know the moment I try to enter his mind. There's no subtle way to do it, and then he won't talk to me again. Screw talking to him, Harry called. I promised Zabini, Draco reminded him. I don't care what Zabini wants, Harry snapped. I care what happens to you, and I won't let not hurt you because Zabini wants you to go on some unwarranted rescue mission. I owe Pansy Parkinson, and by extension Zabini, since they're apparently a package deal, Draco pointed out. They saved my arse from Umbridge last year. Zabini made it very clear this is them calling in favors. I can't back out. Slytherins, Harry spat, looking ready to murder Zabini. Hey, Draco said, reaching out to close his fingers around his wrist. Trust me, okay? It's going to be all right. You do dangerous things all the time, and I have to sit back and let you. Now it's your turn. You never just sit back and let me, Harry muttered rather petulantly, but Draco's words seemed to have hit a sore spot somewhere because he took a deep breath and visibly deflated. Fine. Okay. But you're taking the map and the cloak, and you'll send a Patronus if you need my help. I don't care if it's flashy and gives away what you are doing to the whole school, but if you are in danger, you will ask for help. Understood, Draco nodded. Dang, I had to smile. You are adorable when you're protective. Shut up, Harry groaned. I'm being serious here. I know, Draco nodded. So am I. Harry glowered at him half-heartedly, but then he pulled him in by the hand until they were chest to chest and nose to nose. There's nothing I hate more in the world than when something happens to you, Harry whispered, his lips brushing against Draco's. So you'd better make sure to take care of yourself, because I won't vouch for what I'll do if not hurt you in any way. Noted. Draco breathed the warmth of being treasured this deeply by Harry, filling him to the brink. And so, Draco's mission to spy on Theodore Nott began. It didn't take him long to figure out a couple of things. 1. Zabini had been right in saying that Nott looked sickly and anxious. He barely talked, in class, at mealtimes, or in the hallways, and when he did, it was with Crabbe and Goyle. He didn't eat much, either, and he never met anyone's eyes. It was clear that he was hiding something now that Draco had been made aware of it. Why had he not seen him before? 2. Nott disappeared every day for varied lengths of time, and when he did, he vanished off the Marauder's map. It puzzled Draco at first, before he used Harry's invisibility cloak to follow Nott out of the Slytherin dorms one morning and saw him enter the Room of Requirement. And that made sense, Draco realized. It was the room's magic hiding Nott from any kind of detection. 3. Whatever Nott did in the Room of Requirement, it seemed to take a long time. He stayed in there for hours at a time, and when he came out again, he looked, if anything, more frustrated with himself. Draco had tried a couple of times to follow him into the room, but had quickly given up, realizing that it was impossible. And anyway, bursting in on Nott's secret mission probably wasn't very conducive to his actual plan of talking to him and extending a hand of peace. So instead, Draco continued to watch him and ticked off his options in his mind. He knew naturally that he had to approach Nott eventually if he wanted to keep his word to Zabini, but the distance between them settled like an abyss, impossible to cross. He kept convincing himself that he was just waiting for the right moment, but days passed and turned into a week, and then 2, and he still hadn't acted. And then he was entering his dormitory one afternoon, about to drop off his arithmancy book in favor of ancient runes before lunch, to find Nott sitting on his bed, head in his hands. He startled when he took note of Draco getting to his feet and turning his back to him, instead busying himself with his trunk. But it was too late. Draco had seen the crack in his armor, and he had frozen in his movements, staring at Nott's tense shoulders, his mind racing. This was the moment he knew. He cleared his throat, his fingers flexing around the books in his hands. "Theo?" he said slowly, his voice strangely raw and a little off. "Are you all right?" Nott stopped moving at the use of his nickname. Draco knew it was a bold move. He had called him like that since before they started Hogwarts, but Draco felt that if he wanted to stand a chance at getting through to him, it would do good to remind Theodore Nott that they had once shared a friendship of sorts. There was a long, icy silence between them, and Draco knew that Nott wasn't going to answer. So Draco figured that he needed to speak. "Listen," he muttered. I know he's making you do something." At that, Nott whirled around, eyes wide and wand pointed at Draco. Draco dropped his books to the floor, putting his hands up in surrender, indicating that he wasn't armed, a fact that he was inwardly regretting now. "What do you know?" Nott hissed, and Draco recognized the pure, unadulterated panic in his eyes. "No details," Draco assured him quickly. "You've kept your secret well. I don't know what your plan is, but I know there is a plan. Your misery is jumping out at everyone who takes the time to look at you twice, Theo." "You don't know anything!" Nott yelled, wand still trained on him, but his hand was shaking. "You got away! You and your spineless mother running out the double door and hiding behind Potter." "We got out because we knew it was the right thing to do," Draco said, trying to keep his voice calm and level. "The Dark Lord doesn't care what happens to you, Theo. You have to see that." "Oh, a Dumbledore does!" Nott challenged. "If you defect, he will offer you protection," Draco promised. "He did for me and Mother." "I can't just leave you brainless idiots!" Nott yelled, his voice high-pitched and desperate. "He'll kill my parents!" Draco closed his eyes, cursing inward. Of course! Even if they got Catherine Nott out of the Dark Lord's reach, Henry Nott would still be stuck in Azkaban with his own father, vulnerable to when the Death Eaters decided to break them out and exact their revenge. And Theodore was much more loyal to Henry than Draco was to Lucius. "The nerve you have!" Nott growled, and Draco's eyes flew open again. "When it's all your fault to begin with!" "My fault?" Draco called, eyes bulging. "I don't It should have been you!" Nott shouted. "Your father was the one leading the mission on the Ministry last year. He screwed up, not my father. But the Dark Lord couldn't very well get to you and make you pay for your father's mistake. Now could he? So he's making me do his bidding." And damn! Draco felt like the floor had just dropped from underneath his feet. He had known, of course, that he had been in danger from the Dark Lord, had known that this had been the reason his mother had searched Dumbledore out in the first place, but he had not known that other people would have to suffer instead. He might dislike that, but he had not wished that fate on him. Theo, Draco breathed. I swear I didn't know. At that, Nut laughed. It sounded hollow. Not so smart after all, are you? He taunted. Or has Potter fucked your brain out yet? Let me help you, Draco insisted, ignoring the dig. We can go to Dumbledore. Maybe we can find a way to fix this without endangering your parents. You don't get it, do you? Nott shouted, taking quick steps towards Draco, and Draco struggled to not back away to stand his ground. His hand twitched for his wand, but he feared that it would set Nott off if he reached for it now. And then Nott was all in his face, and the tip of his wand was digging into his chest, and he was hissing, There's no way out for me! It's too late! But you don't want to do this! Draco pointed out, his heart hammering against his chest. A blind man can see that you don't! It doesn't matter if I want to or not! Nott groaned, and the way he shoved his wand against Draco's collarbone now was painful. I have to! I don't get to fucking choose, Draco! Not everyone is the chosen one's fuck toy! I know you think there isn't a way out, Draco muttered. I've been in situations like that before. In our second year, the Dark Lord had possessed me, and I was walking around opening the Bloody Chamber of Secrets. I know what it's like to be scared and think that you won't get out of this, but believe me, there's always a way, if you'll just stop talking high and mighty like a Gryffindor. Nott spat, and Draco had just a moment to see the look in his eyes and know he had pushed him too far. There was a flash of magic from a nonverbal spell, and then Draco was off his feet and flying across the room. He connected painfully with the stone wall across the room, banging his head and losing sense of his surroundings. It only took a moment for Nott to be back, though, grabbing the front of his robes and hovering above where he lay crumpled on the ground. His face contorted in rage as he stared Draco down. You think just because you got away, just because you're with the Golden Boy now, that you know all the answers, don't you? Well, let me tell you, Malfoy, you know nothing. Life's not the fair, simple self-help group you make it out to be, and the sooner you realize that, the easier it will be for all of us. Draco opened his mouth, unsure what he was going to say. His head felt like it was going to split open, and he didn't know where his wand was, and... Oh, Merlin! Nott groaned, and not even giving him a chance to speak. Shut up! I don't want any more of your nonsense! Shut up! Shut up! Shut... Crucio! And that Draco had not expected. The pain was sharp and all-encompassing, and he was screaming and flailing under Nott's grip, trying to get away from it, but it didn't stop! He was going to die! He was... And then it was over, and Nott was gone, and there was shouting. Draco was hazy and dizzy, and it took a moment for him to recognize that someone was shaking him. Draco? Draco, answer me! Crap, please, we need to get him asleep! I'm not going to leave you alone with this Billickbrands, even if he's under a full body bite. Did you see him crucioing the crap out of Malfoy? I know, but Draco's hurt. He's bleeding like hell, and we need help. Fuck, okay, I swear I'm never helping that bloke again. I can't believe... And that was all Draco registered before he lost consciousness altogether. When Draco woke up again, he felt like his brain had been wrapped into a thick layer of cotton. For a moment, he did not know where he was, and it was only when voices began to filter through the haze of confusion that he took note of Harry's presence at his side. Draco, Harry muttered, his voice soft and tender and completely wrecked. One hand came up to stroke back his hair from his forehead, his touch ever so gentle and careful, and his other was clinging to Draco's like a lifeline. Where am I? Draco slurred, not quite in possession of his speech yet. The hospital wing, Harry explained, and his eyes darkened noticeably. Parkinson and Zabidi alerted Snape, who brought you in. They said you and Nott got into a fight. Oh! Draco muttered, and flashes of what had transpired came back to him bit by bit. Harry looked like he wanted to say something more, but was interrupted by Madame Pomfrey hurrying to the side. Mr. Malfoy, she greeted him, her voice a soothing tone of practicality. Back to the living, I see. Do you feel any pain in your head? No, Draco sighed, frowning a little. But I feel... strange? Yes, she nodded, her expression wry now. And I expect you will for a while longer. This was no simple concussion you came in with, Mr. Malfoy. Your skull was fractured profoundly. You were bleeding externally and internally, and there was a minor swelling of your brain.
I could fix it naturally, but I chose to apply some gentler and slow-working charms to get the job done in fear of causing any lasting damage through hasty work. Also,
And she paused here, eyeing him closely now.
I observed traces of dark magic in your nervous system, and I didn't want them to intervene with any spells I cast. Do you remember any curse Mr. Not used on you, Mr. Malfoy?
Draco did. He could feel the burning and total pain of the Cruciatus curse like it was happening right now. But he knew clear as day that if he told Madame Pomfrey that not I cast an unforgivable curse on him, the other boy would go to Azkaban. At Azkaban, he would be unprotected, just like his father, and the Dark Lord's wrath would be turned on them even more viciously because he had failed to perform whatever mission he was handed. And again, it would be Draco's fault. I don't remember, Draco lied. It's all fuzzy. Madame Pomfrey stared at him for a moment longer, and Draco suspected she knew exactly what curse had been cast, but wasn't ready to point fingers without Draco's testimony. Finally, she nodded, turning away.
All right, she said. If you remember anything, please tell me.
She left Harry and Draco alone soon after, disappearing into her office, and Draco was grateful for the privacy. I'm going to murder him, Harry announced as soon as she was gone. His expression was haunted. I'm going to make him pay for laying a bloody finger on you. Harry! Draco sighed rather tiredly. No! He could have killed you, Draco, Harry hissed. He almost did. Don't be dramatic, Draco cribbed, dragged by lightness. We've both been here for head injuries after Quidditch matches more times than we can count. The joke fell flat between them, and Harry's fingers only tightened on his hand as he stared him down, green eyes bright with emotion. Harry! You give me all these lectures about watching out for myself, about keeping myself alive. But look at you! Harry snapped, and his voice was choked now. I almost lost you, and you have the audacity to joke about it! I'm sorry, Draco apologized. I didn't mean to. I care about your life as much as you care about mine, so stop treating it like it doesn't matter. Harry ranted. I know you care about me, Draco breathed. I'm sorry, I really didn't mean it like that. Well, sometimes I think you don't know what you sound like, Harry grumbled, looking away. Draco brought their joined hands up to his lips in a clumsy movement, pressing a lip to the back of Harry's. Harry took a couple of deep breaths before meeting Draco's eyes again. I'm sorry, Draco repeated. I didn't mean to upset you. Harry just nodded, acknowledging his words, and then he leaned in to press gentle lips to his forehead. Don't ever think you don't matter, Harry whispered against his skin. That it wouldn't destroy me if anything happened to you. Draco closed his eyes and nodded. They stayed like that for a minute, just enjoying each other's proximity, until Harry pulled away, looking a little calmer. Harry, Draco tried hesitantly. Don't go after Not. The stare Harry gave him was flat, so he added more I'm serious. Please don't. Give me one reason why I shouldn't, Harry challenged. Apart from the fact that you could be hurt or expelled, and that he's probably already being punished by Snape as we speak. Draco took an unsteady breath, licking his lips before admitting. He's scared and desperate, Harry. I pushed him too far and he lashed out. That's no excuse, Harry snapped. Maybe not, Draco agreed. But it's human. Let's not make it any harder than it is. Why are you defending him? Harry demanded. Because it could have been me, Draco burst out. Don't you see, Harry? If we hadn't become friends, and I have never broken with my father... You would have never, Harry interrupted him with such conviction that it tore at Draco's heart. Wouldn't I have? He challenged. I'm pretty sure I would have. It was you who changed my path, Harry. Let's not kid ourselves. And Not didn't have a Harry to drag him off. It's as simple as that. I think it's bullcrap, Harry declared. Think what you may, Draco shrugged, feeling endlessly tired. It's the truth, though. I'm not inherently good just because you decided so. Harry was frowning at him, and Draco had to close his eyes, feeling the beginning of a headache blooming again. Please, just promise me to let it be, he sighed. We'll figure out what to do about Not later, but don't go looking for revenge. It won't get us anywhere. Fine, Harry sighed, and his fingers were back in Draco's hair, stroking it gently. Whatever you say. Draco had to stay in the hospital wing for 2 whole days due to Madame Pomfrey's insistence. In the days he was out of action, the apparition exams finally took place at Hogsmeade, though Draco didn't exactly miss out on those, seeing that he was too young to take them in the first place. Hermione and Weasley had gone, though, and Hermione had dropped in later that day to inform him with an air of triumph that she had quite unsurprisingly passed, while Weasley had, much to Draco's entertainment, failed because he had left behind half an eyebrow. While Hermione dropped in occasionally, Harry only left his side when he had to. He had, as Draco perceived with some relief, taken Draco's words to heart and left not alone. But Draco could tell that the whole ordeal had shocked him to the core, and he was unusually somber in a way that Draco didn't really associate with him. Sometimes he caught Harry looking at him in a certain way, as if he was trying to figure something out about him, and it made Draco deeply uncomfortable, though he couldn't explain why. He was declared back to full health just in time for Slytherin's final match of the season, much to his relief, as well as his whole team's. All of them had come by to see him as well, though their urgency to see him back on the field had put Harry on edge, so they had tried to time their visits for moments whenever he wasn't anywhere nearby. I'm pretty sure we could get Potter suspended for sabotaging our team by trying to keep you out of action longer, Viola muttered bitterly. Not to mention that he was ready to behead Ryan for asking you to get the fuck out of this bed. Give him a break, I just scared him is all. Draco sighed, shrugging apologetically at Ryan. His beater, though, just grinned at him, sheepishly returning.
Mate, I'm dating a Gryffindor myself, remember? I know how fiery they get.
You will be fine for Saturday, right?
Zoe asked, almost timidly.
I heard not roughened yet quite badly. Snape put him in detention every weekend for the rest of the year.
He should have been expelled, Albus muttered darkly. Who does he think he is, prancing about like he's better than the rest of us and then attacking you like that?
His type has always been like that, though.
Yatten rolled his eyes.
Pure but elite. And now that you know who's back, it's even worse.
Draco's a rare exception to the rule. We all know it. It's funny because until we started hanging out with Draco and his friends, I didn't realize that it was only Slytherin where these things still mattered. Eureka muttered, deeply thoughtful. I've been spending much more time with Luna lately and sometimes with Ginny and her crowd. And no one ever cares who your parents are once you're at the Gryffindor or Ravenclaw table, I guess Hufflepuff. But with Slytherins, it suddenly matters.
Not with everyone,
Karina countered. No, Eureka smiled. But we had to find each other first, didn't we? An uncomfortable silence followed her words before Yatten said, with more force than Draco expected, I think it's stupid, all of it. We're far too many Slytherins in number to all be pure-blooded or even half-blooded. There's got to be some Voldemorts among us. But they can never speak up because outing themselves would be social suicide. He looked at Draco suddenly, addressing him directly. That's why what you did is so important, Draco. You broke the stereotype, and it matters! Don't let Nut or anyone else ever tell you otherwise. Draco didn't know what to answer to that. He felt deeply shaken by the words of his teammates, more than by the insinuations Zabini, Lupin, or Harry had made in the same direction, and for the first time he wondered if they really had some truth to them. He had never intended to inspire hope in others, but apparently he had done it unwittingly. Maybe it was worth remembering that, after all, if only for the sake of his friends. Promise me you'll be careful, Harry muttered, pressing up against his side at the Slytherin table. Yes, Mother, Draco teased, making Harry throw him an exasperated glare. Please, Harry, relax. We're playing Hufflepuff, not you. It's not going to be a life-or-death match.
As if you facing off against each other was ever life or death,
Ryan stormed in.
I'd rather call it foreplay.
Careful, Draco warned. I could still bench you. I'm sure Zoe would make a fantastic beater.
I'll give it a try.
Zoe winked at him across the table.
Fine, geez, I'll zip it, Captain.
Ryan rolled his eyes.
You're no fun today.
Draco shook his head fondly before returning his attention to Harry. I'll be fine, he promised him. I'm not a sugar quill. I don't break that easily. Harry looked like he was biting his tongue when he did refrain from protesting, which Draco counted as a success. Slytherin went into the match as the outstanding favorite. Having won both of their prior matches, they needed only one more victory to secure the House Cup, and Hufflepuff's form had been mediocre at best. Draco's team, though, was motivated as ever, and as he called them together for a huddle in the cabin, they were all positively buzzing with energy, even Zoe, who was sidelined today. So, Draco began, meeting every eye in the circle. Viola once pointed out that we're probably the most unpopular Slytherin team in the history of the house. And that might well be true, but we're also probably the best. And you know why? Because in this team, no one had to buy their way in. No one got in by their surname or their blood status. We're all here because we love Quidditch and we're bloody good at it. And it shows on the pitch. And no one can take that from us no matter what happens out there today. We already won. Because against all odds, in this messed up house and world, we became a team and we're successful. And we've already proven our worth. Nobody can take that from us. So go out there today, show them how, be proud of who you are, and leave the pitch with your head held high because we're sending a message to this school and to our housemates. Are you with me? The response to his words was deafening, and Draco felt so elated that he was sure he could have flown without his broom. They won the match with a record score, securing the house cup prematurely, despite the fact that Ravenclaw and Gryffindor had yet to play their last match. Dumbledore, though, had seen it fit to prepare the trophy for them in advance so they could celebrate their victory properly. As Draco was handed the cup, as the representative for the whole team, it felt almost like an out-of-body experience. He knew he was grinning like a madman, and then he was almost bowled over by his teammates, all of them wanting a piece of the cup and of him. It was only when strong, familiar arms encased him, pulling him flat against a warm chest, that Draco felt a little more grounded. Harry grinned at him, eyes sparkling in a Slytherin green that was matching the scarf he was wearing before he kissed him, deep and lingering. "Congrats," he murmured against his lips. "You really deserve it." "High praise from the rivaling captain," Draco chuckled. "I'd have expected you to be at least a little bitter." "Oh, please," Harry scoffed. "You are so much more important than Quidditch, and there's always next year. I'll get you back eventually." "You can try," Draco grinned, leaning in for another kiss.